Hi friends, it's Sarah from Ruffles and Rainboots.com. Today I'm going to share the Axel Gnome pattern with these cute little wobble feet. They're super cute. And if you'd like to make it, just boop, stick around. As always, please like this video so I know you're here crafting with me. So let's get a cute look at him. Obviously, the feet are adorable. There are extras included in this pattern, and so I just wanted to highlight each of them. This will be a sewing tutorial. You can see him front, back to side, center, whatever. But if you want to hot glue, you can. I've already shared items on this playlist. So for those of you wondering, I will be using my acrylic pattern pieces to cut this out. You can order those, which are physical items, and an additional on digital pattern if you want, right on Etsy, and I'll email it to you. So I'm going to be using the body, the base, the hat, the feet, and then something for a nose. This is a 1.5 inch clay piece, but you can use wood rounds, wood beads, etc. Some faux fur and an X-Acto knife to cut it. I'll also be using weight and polyfill. So I have poly pellets and polyfill here. I'm going to use some decorations, and I'm going to use a hot glue gun. But as I mentioned, I am going to sew this, and it's not a beginner sewing tutorial because I lost the version of the actual sewing machine. So this is all I have for you, but we're going to follow the pattern. You're going to start and reverse your stitches exactly where the pattern calls out. Then you're going to make it one of two ways. Without the feet, you're just going to come all the way down about 1/4 inch away from the join. On that corner, you're going to reverse your stitches, go back to where you stopped, then you're going to turn. You're going to start and reverse your stitches in this corner, and then you're going to stitch all the way along this bottom down here and reverse your stitches. So for those of you beginning, don't worry, use a 2.5 or 3 inch or 3 size stitch, and just it's a straight stitch. That's it. Now, if you want to do feet, you're going to go down, turn the corner, go back, and then stop. You're going to put we call it the collar up at the top, and so you're going to be working down here on this bottom piece. I'm going to sew the feet as individual pieces, but if you are new, fold over the fleece, pin it, draw the pattern on, and then sew it in a little square. It will be easier. Be sure to stop so you have room to turn the feet, and make sure you have a nice clean edge around that rounded portion at the front before you turn it right side out and run the seam between your fingers. Now, on the second one, you see how right here I have a little bit of extra fabric? I'm actually going to cut that off so that I can get a nice, beautiful rounded toe. See, that's it. That's all you have to do. And then you're just going to turn that one inside out as well. Once you do that and you have the seams flat, you are actually going to put a little bit of stuffing in them. So those can also be used as little hands, but you don't have to listen to that. Just add the stuffing. Super quick. This is all real time. I'll tell you when I speed something up. It takes me less than about 27 minutes or so to do this entire gnome. That was my original video length. So just FYI, even though this one's only 12, I'm going to be editing out obviously dry time for the hot glue and some sewing. All right, so now here is the assembly. So we have our collar at the top, we have our base, and we have our feet. So for the feet, you are going to point them in towards the seam so that they point out when you flip it out. If you want them straight, you can do it straight, but I think it looks cute when they're a little protruded out. So again, you're going to go just to the left or right of the seam, and you're going to attach it to the opposite side. So just FYI, you have to make sure the seam is up, and you're going to point these 2 feet so they're facing the seam, and you're putting the flat portion on the edge, and it's hanging out the back. Okay, so this part up here, we're not going to pin anything to the part with the seam. I'm only clipping or pinning the feet to that back edge of my body. Let me speed that up. And you can use pins on this second one. I'm going to hold the first one in place, but I do want to make sure nothing moves around. So what I'm going to do is just sew that foot on the top stitch because it's going to make it easier to assemble later. I'm going to start, reverse my stitches, and I'm going to sew across, start and reverse my stitches. And we're going to do that for both of the feet. Now I'm using white thread so you can see it, but you would obviously use green thread, and I'll show you why. So now I have to just cut off all these threads. Hang on. Now you can see I have overhang back here. That doesn't matter. You want that because you want to make sure you catch all of the layers together. So now for the body base piece, you're just going to line that up like normal. And you're going to pin it. So I'm going to pin it once over here on the right, once on the left, and a couple of times across that crown in the center. There you go. Right here. And then we're going to sew. So just FYI, I'm going to also pin this other side because I want to make sure these feet are out of the way. So I'm going to line up the base just with the piece on the outside edge of the body. But I am going to make sure that when I put this in my sewing machine, I am moving that body out of the way. So again, I'm just going to start just past the seam. So I'm going to remove this one pin, and that's where I'm going to start so that I can catch the seam coming back around. I do flatten the seam on this one just to make sure I got all my layers. I'm going to start and reverse my stitches. And then I'm going to go all the way around. So you'll see me move the body. When you go all the way around, you'll have to move the body, make it flat, go slow. This is obviously sped up. And then you're going to reverse stitch to lock in the stitches. Cut, if you want to cut your threads, you can. Now, here's why you use the same color matching. So right on one of these shots, I thought I left it. Oh, there it is. I did. There's a white string. You can see it. See that? That is actual thread. So you definitely want to match your color. For white, it makes it easy for people to see if I use the white. I am going to be sewing a Sherpa hat. And if you've never sewn Sherpa before, give yourself a wide, at a minimum, 1/4 inch seam allowance. But you're just going to do the same thing. Put the right sides together, fold it in half, sew all the way up and down, starting and locking your stitches. I almost lost a digit with those scissors. And somebody asked me, why do you use the pliers? Okay, you don't have to use the pliers. You don't have to use hemostats. But she asked how to do it. So what I do is I put the pliers all the way up to the top, grab the top and push it into the pliers, turn it right side out. And then I'm just going to also make sure that it is poked out all the way it can be. You can use the pliers for this, but I just poke it out a little bit to make sure it's all the way out. Doesn't look a bit different because this is Sherpa fleece. And this part is the same as the others I've shared on this Axel Gnome playlist. You add the weight and the stuffing. So on the stuffing, I want to say, always squeeze it, make sure, and tuck it down into the corners. That's how you're going to get a nice little rounded booty and belly. This is a big pronounced belly for this guy, and I love it. Okay, so running stitch is one way to sew this up. If you're unfamiliar, you just have a piece of thread on a needle and you don't have a knot at the end, but don't pull it all the way through, and just go in and out, in and out, in and out. No knotting anything until you get to the very end, where you're going to go right past that seam, right next to where you started, and then pull it tight. If you would like, you can also use a rubber band and a piece of string. It's just whatever you want. I'm going to add a little bit more stuffing because I want this portion right here at the very top to be a little bit more dense. And then I'm just going to pull these two strings, making sure I get all of it captured, and then tying it in knots, which I am going to fast forward because I'm a slow knot tyer and I tie a lot of them. I cut off the excess and give him a little lint brushing because it's fleece and it's Sherpa. Slip on the hat, and this is going to give me a good way to measure the beard. Now the pattern does call out a beard, but listen to me, friends, you don't have to do what I say. This is Mongolian fleece in frosted gray. I'm going to cut a 3-inch square-ish shape. You can cut a V, you can cut a circle, you can cut a U, you can cut whatever you want. I'm just going to cut a square. I love this fur. I absolutely love this fur. I have for years. And if you're wondering, it's called Mongolian, and it's in frosted gray. It's from Shannon Fabrics, and I love it a lot. You can get it on Amazon. You can get it on Etsy. You can get it on eBay. You can get it on some of the craft stores. Just depends on what time of year. So I'm just going to tuck that up and I like it, but I'm gonna raise mine up a little bit more because this is a longer pile of fur. And you know, I kind of want to see that little part where his belly overlaps the feet. I'm gonna add a little bit of glue. And then once I make sure I like it, then I'm gonna glue down the bottom. If you are new to making gnomes, ask and watch videos. I've been doing this for so long now. These take me on average about 20-25 minutes to make. Even the more complicated ones are pretty easy to make. All right, so I'm just going to cut off the excess where the body was tied, add a little bit of stuffing, about 3 inches or so, to the top of the hat, and then slip it all on, making sure I like where it's placed before I add in the side stuffing. That's a little much. I'm gonna have to squish it around, but you wanna go right around where the body is tied. I'm going to split the fur to the fabric backing using this little comb, add some hot glue, and pop on a 1.5 inch clay round that I made. This is out of polymer clay. Line up the seams and glue it all down. So I'm gluing the back, both of the sides, and then I will do the nose last because I want to make sure my little fleecy bit, the fabric backing is covered with the fleece. Now it's time to decorate. I have one glue stick left. You know, it's where the terrors come for a crafter, right there. Before I go to the store, hopefully I can finish this little guy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to deconstruct one of these little Dollar Tree hollies, and I'm going to poke a hole right into the hat. You can also go into the body if you want to leave a longer brim, but I'm going to glue mine down. The best part about Sherpa is that even if you make a hole for something, guess what? No one's ever gonna see it. So you could be able to change the decorations very easily with this style of fleece. After I glue everything down, that's it. That is it for me today. Do you like this pattern? I love this pattern. It's so quick. It's so easy. And again, I'll put the links to the pattern and the acrylic pattern pieces below. Hey, thanks for watching. Please like this video, subscribe, and I hope you have a great day.